What I've got for you today should be a very interesting strategy in StarCraft 2. In the first game, we're finding ourselves on the map inside and out and spawning here in the bottom left-hand corner, playing with the blue Terran SCVs, playing under a barcode nickname. We're looking at uThermal's main command center. Now, uThermal has traveled the world playing StarCraft 2. He's won multiple tournaments. He's been very successful over the course of his career. And recently, over the last, I want to say 6 to 9 months or so, I guess, he's been taking funny strategies onto the ladder, and somehow, some way, he's been making them work. His most recent series is Mines and Cyclones to Grandmaster League. And spoiler alert, he's made it to Grandmaster League. His opponent, spotting right here in the top right-hand corner, with the red Zerg drones, he goes by the name of Trifex. Now, as of me making this video, Trifex is currently the rank 24 in Grandmaster League on the European server at 6.1k MMR. So this is by no means a weak player whatsoever. I mean, it's one thing to, like, play a funny strategy and then, you know, make it work against someone that's, like, thousands of MMR below your actual skill level. And then it's, you know, an entirely different beast to play that same strategy against someone who's actually really, really good. So we'll find out exactly what ended up going down in this particular game. I'm going to be casting a Terran versus Zerg first, and then after this one completes, I'm also going to be covering a Terran versus Protoss in this one video. I'll try to use the timestamps down below in the video as well, so you can use the timeline if you want to skip forward maybe to the Terran versus Protoss if you've seen the strategy and how it works out in TVZ. Either way, I mean, you guys never skip forward, right? Nah, that's not actually something you do, right? Anyways, so Mines and Cyclones. Now, I know what you're thinking. Loko, that's a Reaper. uThermal does take a couple liberties when it comes to playing these strategies. So I'm assuming he can probably make like 1 or 2 Reapers in the early game just to not like die to anything stupid. And I can imagine that there's probably also going to be things like maybe like a Medevac or 2. Especially if you want to play Widow Mines, Medevacs are kind of mandatory. So he's definitely taken a couple of liberties as well that aren't just exclusively Widow Mines and Cyclones. Well, and SCVs I suppose, but overall the main strategy is just going to be those 2 units. Now, here's the thing. They supplement each other reasonably well. If you would go only Mass Cyclone, Zerg could just go Zerglings, right? Like, that would do quite well. You could probably just go Mass Hydra. You could probably do about 5 dozen different things, and it should, technically speaking, work out pretty well for the Zerg player. Widow Mines, however, a bit of a weird supplement, but I guess they can deal a lot of splash damage, and therefore, especially if like a Zergling wraparound is attempted, you can probably, you know, at the very least push that back. So it's a unit composition that I can imagine. I, of course, haven't seen these games, but I can imagine that Cyclone Widow Mine works well in like the earlier stages of the game, because once you get Cyclones going, it's kind of hard to lose. And the same obviously goes for, say, when you have like the mid-game, you have a bunch of Cyclones out and all that. But what if you get to the later stages of a match? What if the Zerg starts mixing in things like, I don't know, fully upgraded Zerglings even? Or, for example, Vipers? What about a fungal growth with a bunch of infestors? What about lurkers? I think that's what we're going to find out, because I looked at the replay timer for this particular game, and it's a rather long one, so I am very interested to see how good those units actually are. So uThermal has done a bunch of different challenges that are similar to this one, and one thing I noticed is that even though StarCraft 2 has been around for literally 12 years now, and we've had the professional gaming scene for such a long time, some units are actually more powerful than we consider them to be. So, especially, for example, Cyclones, I mean, we see maybe 1, maybe 2, right, in a lot of games. But that's kind of where the Cyclone story ends. They're, in a lot of cases, similar to the Reaper, where you make just one of them, and then, you know, you use that to leverage your way into a different army, but yeah, it turns out they actually do have a lot of potential. Now, good defense right here from Trifex, not really taking any damage here in the earlier stages of the game. I mean, he lost a creep tumor maybe, but yeah, nothing all too crazy there. A lot of this comes down to just making sure you survive. Now, obviously, Trifex doesn't know that he's going up against uThermal. If he knows that he's playing against this strategy, he would probably adjust his build and his strat as well, but yeah, since it's a barcode nickname, and nothing is particularly apparent here that it's uThermal, I don't think that he's aware of the fact that he's going to be playing against someone who's playing a rather spicy playstyle. Very ambitious little Reaper here, but eventually it is going to get sniped. And there it goes. Okay, so what exactly is Zerg going for? We've got a lair. We're going into the Baneling Nest right now. He'll be going for the Baneling Speed upgrade very soon as well. 4th hatchery already done. So, or already started, rather. So, yeah, we see the 4th Command Center starting up right around the same time, too. But he's by no means in a bad spot here, right? Here's the Widow Mine drop, okay. Attempted once again. Maybe this time around it can get some work done. A little bit slow on the burrow there. Not getting as much damage in than he probably could have. Okay, nice little micro trick there by Trifex. Keeping those units alive. There's still 1 Widow Mine inside of main base as well. Good split, though. Yep, there you go. Okay. He's fast. I'm not really familiar with Trifex. I've seen his name pop up on the ladder a couple times, but other than that, don't really know too much about him. But he certainly seems to know what he's doing. So, by the way, the Spore Crawler is finished here. That wasn't just to block the drone from being killed, but also, yeah, to provide detection against these Widow Mines. Since the armory was rushed out, those units are rather obnoxious. Spore Crawler finishes in the main base too, and... okay, getting a couple more worker kills right there. But honestly, this early game... I mean, yeah, 9 workers here is pretty good, but I think you're kind of hoping for something a little bit more. Maybe I'm mistaken, though, because this 4th Command Center is really quick. I kind of expected uThermal to play a little bit more cheesy. Maybe go for, like, a timing attack or something along those lines where you're rushing out those upgrades and you're just trying to throw units in your opponent's face. But honestly, this seems like a pretty sophisticated version of this strat, where I would have imagined it to be more cheesy. Alright. Now we're getting some work in, though. Widow Mine eventually, Medevac right there blows up. Widow Mine's here. Ooh, getting some good trades. And that's what you're hoping for. That is going to slow the Zerg player down quite a bit. Okay. So, 20 workers here in total. But then again, creep spread is looking nice. I don't think that Zerg can really complain about all too much, because even though he doesn't know exactly what he's going up against so far, I mean, if it is going to be a bunch of Cyclones driving onto the creep, I can imagine that Zerglings are just going to be able to get the wraparound, right? It shouldn't be rocket science. These units are really strong. He hasn't done a lot of scouting, by the way. So this is sometimes a bit of a problem that you run into when you're a ladder hero, since most players will just do the exact same strategy over and over and over again. Okay, now it's really starting to work. Yeah, you can kind of make the assumption that everybody is going to be playing that strat. So Trifex right now countering primarily a infantry-based mid-game, but none of that is actually happening. So he's going to be able to get that scouting info here in just a little bit as soon as that Nemetis Carapace upgrade finishes up. That is the Overlord speed research. But yeah, I'm actually quite surprised with the passivity right here of uThermal. So he put a planetary fortress here in a choke point. Okay. I mean, passivity as far as, like, you know, trying to end the game goes. He is just playing heavy macro, expending all over the map. Prioritizing armor upgrades. So Cyclones with their lock-on ability, they benefit a lot more from those armor upgrades rather than the attack upgrades, although obviously attack upgrades are still very helpful too. Now Trifex finally figures out what he's going up against, or at least he should get an inkling. Well, if I were to see this, I would probably assume Terran mech. Yeah. So this isn't really telling the full story just yet. The Widow Mine drops are relentless though. And this is where you can see uThermal just being a little bit more on point. It's not really an APM problem, it's mostly just an efficiency problem here, where Trifex is pulling the workers, and he is doing so pretty rapidly, but not fast enough. Hydra count, though, slowly growing. We're at 6 right now, but it's already gonna make defending against those medevac drops quite a bit easier, as you can finally start sniping those units out of the sky. There you go. Okay, now this is what we're waiting for. 9.5 minutes into the game is when we finally see the Cyclone army moving out. This is by no means the biggest Cyclone army that he could have made. This is a relatively small force, all things considered. So he's really allowing Zerg to just do whatever. And Trifex, despite losing all those workers, has now got 98 drones, okay. Widow Mines here, burrowed all over the map. Good wraparound here. Banelings, though, trying their very best. The thing about Cyclones is that they're really expensive. Like, Cyclones are a little bit cheaper than a siege tank, but not really by that much. So, every time you see one of those units die, that is a very expensive unit to lose. That being said, 91 SCVs right now for uThermal. I like this, yeah. Going straight into the Lurker Den is not a bad idea. It can be very tempting to... Okay, don't know what's going on here. It can be really tempting to yeah, try to just throw a lot of Zerglings and Banelings at this problem, and I've done that myself in the past, but I think Lurkers are going to be a pretty fantastic choice. Now, what exactly is uThermal going to do against Lurkers? So the normal late-game army for Terran is literally anything but this. And for good reason, because the Zerg late game is terrifying. Okay, lock-ons against Zerglings. Nice, I guess. Hatchery building in the bottom right-hand corner. Zerglings are, yeah, being held right here by a bunch of Hydras, and even one Baneling really wants to blow up against those rocks. He's creating as many paths as possible. Double medevac drop with Cyclones? Okay, then. Yeah, he's opening up as many pathways here as possible. I really would like to see these rocks also knocked down, just to allow those surrounds a little bit easier. Okay, so how is this going to play out, though? Because even though this is a great position to be in right now for the Terran, this Zerg army is gonna get stronger as time progresses. Oh, a little bit of miscontrol there. This Zerg army is gonna get quite a bit more powerful, whereas the Terran army is, for all intents and purposes, right now maxed out. 7 Widow Mines, 4 Cyclones coming up. Very crazy unit composition. Okay, Widow Mines are gonna burrow. They're gonna blow up those Zerglings real quick. And I guess the Cyclones can clean up the rest. Hydras are pretty expensive. Against Lurkers, though, I guess you can try and jump them. But if the Lurkers are already burrowed, you can't really get too much done. Now, one option you always have is to not actually engage the opponent's army and just go for a full counterattack instead. So maybe that's something that uThermal is considering, but Lurkers are coming up. And he doesn't have an answer. He, at this point, does not have an answer unless the Lurkers are just unburrowed and he manages to jump them all of a sudden. Can't really morph, or you can't really move those Widow Mines in that direction. Now, all of these traits are really nice. You can't really move the Widow Mines into Lurkers that are already sieged up. You can't really do the same thing with Cyclones very easily either. He's still adding on more drones, by the way. 102 workers here for Trifax, who is just trying to build as much economy as possible. And really the same can be said on the other side of the map. uThermal adding on 3 more command centers and even going for the building armor research. Okay. The creep clearing, pretty good. Here comes the Zerg, though. Here come the Lurkers. So what's the plan? Okay. He's moving a little too deep for my liking, but that is still a lot of Lurkers in juicy positions. So how are we gonna fight this? Okay, I don't think we are. Yeah, okay, I think uThermal is addressing this correctly. I don't think you can move in there, because those Lurkers would just destroy everything. So instead, uThermal is giving up the position and going for the full-on counterattack. Cyclones have an insane amount of damage per second. Yeah, just picking off all those units pretty easily, and now the Widow Mines are actually in a pretty juicy spot. Okay, that's maybe why this Planetary Fortress is here, just to try and slow down the advancement right there of the Zerg army. Okay, pretty good splits. This is what I like about uThermal's series. It shouldn't work as well as it does. Like, you're not gonna win against Serral playing Cyclone Widow Mine. But it certainly shows us that Cyclone Widow Mine is actually more viable than you'd imagine. It is definitely not the greatest Terran strategy, but it's certainly not the worst. Okay, well, that was still a pretty expensive trait though. Let's have a look at the resources lost. Honestly, you know what? I say that. It's more gas losses here for Terran, and that's obviously what he is gonna run out of here eventually, but... It's actually going way more efficiently than I thought. 46 Widow Mines, 27 Cyclones, 307 Zerglings. Yeah, honestly, not too bad. The Lurker count at this point has grown to 12, though, and I don't think that's a bad choice. As long as the Lurkers are fully upgraded and they can burrow quickly, which they can, they have the Adaptive Talons, they have the Seismic Spines. It's gonna be hard to catch them. But counterattacking is always an option. Are we not gonna get any of the attack upgrades, by the way? I guess not. Ooh. Hello. Cheating. Cheating. I'm actually saying that out loud. I'm assuming the default Cyclone attacks still benefit from the basic attacks. I'm fairly sure that the lock-on ability is considered a spell, and therefore it does not benefit from any upgrades. Now, I guess he gets the vast majority of his damage from that like lock-on ability, but there's still some regular missiles flying across the screen too. Interesting concave being set up right now after the planetary fortress dies. Is this really a trait you're gonna win? My god, no, you still don't win that. That was the absolute perfect engagement for a Cyclone Widow Mine army, and that still did not really work out. Very expensive losses right there for uThermal. You can see that right now. Yeah, these numbers are not looking as pretty anymore. Another command center goes down too. Even with the perfect concave, right, where units are negating as much of that like lurker splash damage as possible, it's apparently still not quite enough. Okay, so this position has been given up. The problem we're running into right now is that there's simply not that many minerals to mine anymore on this map. Like, there's this base down south, there's another base here on the left side, but there's creep basically everywhere. Trifex has done an excellent job taking control of the map and making sure that it's difficult for the Terran player to get into a good spot. However, if Terran is already in a good spot, good luck trying to break it. Okay. Oh my god, those Widow Mines blowing up a couple of the Cyclones as well. This is what I'm talking about. We've never seen this. Maxed out Hydras facing off against Cyclones. I mean, there's clearly some misrallies going on, but they're doing better than I thought they would. They're actually dealing a ridiculous amount of damage. And obviously they can move and shoot at the same time. Not bad. Widow Mines looking to hunt down some more of those juicy drones. Lurkers are slowly breaking through this, but by the time they're available to fight in the top left, the Cyclones are long gone. The spine crawlers are actually a pretty good option, I think. Yeah, they're not going to be able to... Well, they're going to be able to get shut them down, but that's not really where you want to use those Cyclones. Rocks are still up, actually. Turns out it was a good choice because now the Cyclones are having a much harder time to retreat. Okay. Mark trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat. 61 Cyclones. 69 Widow Mines. That's pretty nice. Okay. This planetary is sick, though. 18 kills. Really slowing down the advancement of the lurker. Yeah, I was thinking if you leave, like, say, 6 lurkers over here and then, like, 6 lurkers over here, you can probably hold those positions relatively easily. But I don't actually know if that's true. There is a chance that the Cyclones would just scan, lock on, and just, you know, run away and stuff. They can actually dodge those spines quite handily. So maybe it's not as great as I'm imagining. Okay, well, there's a couple of really nice, well, really decent abductions. The majority of the units. I say that. Okay. Yeah, now they're gonna get picked off. Good lock-ons right there on the Vipers. Back in the day when mass battle mech was a pretty popular strat, I remember Zergs would literally play, like, upwards of, like, 10 Vipers. So you would go just something like Hydra Ling Viper, and you just abduct those units one at a time. It doesn't work so great against Widow Mine, I suppose, but... I mean, it's not even a terrible idea. Blinding Cloud also could do, a little bit of work. Anyhow, I like the idea of the Viper quite a bit, but good targeting there as well by uThermal, getting rid of a couple of those bad boys really, really quickly. Yeah, so this is a top 25 Grandmaster Zerg. And you can see that he's struggling against this particular strat. Some of that has to do with the fact as well that this is not a common strategy at all. And StarCraft players, believe it or not, usually not that strong when it comes to thinking on the fly. A lot of players will instead do their thinking outside the game. So you load up the replay. Ooh, that was actually a pretty successful little lurker. But you load up the replay and you'd imagine, okay, if I were to face this strategy again next time, what would I do differently, right? And obviously, he's trying his very best in this game to come up with a good strategy. But you can see that he's swapped his style up a couple of times already. He's made a couple of choices that he probably would not make if he were to face off against this again. Okay, yeah, those abductions are really nice. Every time a unit abducts or gets abducted, the Hydras can make very short work of it. Thermy's still getting quite a bit of income, though. Yeah, it's honestly not so bad. He is running out of those mineral fields very soon, so he's gonna have to make a new... Like, yeah, okay, maybe take the base over here or the one on the left side of the map, but... For now, he's got enough money to continuously reinforce his units. Trifex has got a little bit more mining, but honestly not by much. Yeah, 32 out of 8. Heavily oversaturated on one of those expansions. And that's one thing that the Cyclone Hellion, or I keep saying Cyclone Hellion because that's what I've said a million times in the past. That's what the Cyclone Widow Mine army is pretty good against. Just harassing the corners of the map, right? Clearing out the creep and just sniping whatever they can on the outskirts of the Zerg bases. And if that's what they're doing, it's hard to establish a new base. Like, can you really take this one? Not really, because the Cyclones are going to drive down the ramp. Can you take this one? Not really either. No, not really. Pesky little lurker over here. It is going to get sniped, however. Very deep move on creep. This is almost a desperation attack, but yeah, it's going to work out quite well. This is no longer a really fast-moving Zerg army, at least not compared to Zerglings. Would love to see a scan over here as well to get rid of some of this creep, but... yeah, doesn't have a lot of energy anymore on those command centers. He had a lot of command centers once upon a time, and he's making new ones right now, but... no energy for any scans here. Okay. So Trifex has decided to slow this down a little bit. I think he's saying, if you can't mine any more bases... eventually, you're gonna run out of juice. And eventually, that means you have to go for a desperation attack on creep. I wonder if he's correct there. Yeah, so he denied the expansion over here. That's pretty nice. This is basically the next base of attack. In the meantime, also top left being acquired here by Trifex. So, still utilizing the creep to go all over the map. Lurker drops annoying. Buying a bunch of time. But not really game deciding. Although they soften up a lot of those Cyclones, though. I wonder if it's about time we spend some resources on repairing those Cyclones back up to full. But yeah, here's the real issue. What resources? There's now 200 minerals in the bank, and that's about it. Those lurkers, you're not gonna break that. Now hear me out. What about one ghost and one nuke? If we take the liberty to add extra units every once in a while, what about one nuke to force the lurkers to unburrow? That would actually be so sick. You could move in after they are forced to unburrow. That's only a couple hundred resources of investment. But yeah, this is where the lurkers become kind of insane, right? Then again, they're gonna make their victory laps to the top left-hand corner, snipe a couple of bases. Lurkers moving forward towards the bottom right. This is the only lifeline at this point that uThermal really has. Yeah, and these bases are gonna stop mining. Okay, no recall available for Terran last time I checked. So he can go to that corner if he likes, but... okay, nice little bit of micro over here too. I mean, this is still ridiculously close. I think I like this position for Trifex a little bit better, mostly because he's mining. There's just no mining going on here at all for uThermal. uThermal has been making some excellent trades, but Trifex has done a great job with his map control. And just, yeah, trying to be as annoying as possible. Try to slow down the Terran with little drops and little run-bys here and there. It all comes down to these outer bases. So if uThermal can mine this one, it honestly becomes a pretty playable game once again. But if it keeps going the way it is, Zerg is going to outgrow the Terran here very rapidly. Okay, that command center is going to have to lift. No? Okay, instead we have a couple abductions. That's an expansion going down, and... okay, one brave Widow Mine, also part of the battle, but forced to back off. It might be a little bit scary as well if now suddenly Trifex decides to make a round of Zerglings, right? He's got a lot of minerals. There are still some Widow Mines in the mix, but not nearly as many as we saw in the earlier stages of this game. That creep needs to be denied. Yeah, okay. So that tumor is going to be disappearing here. Because of that, command center should be able to land. Okay. So I think what uThermal's saying, yo, you can mine the base on the right side at the 3 o'clock position. If I can then at the same time mine the base at the 9 o'clock position. SCVs are now beginning to repair those Cyclones up. But here come the Zerglings, yeah. So this is what I was talking about. This is going to be really hard to hold. If there's no planetary here, these are fully upgraded links. They pack a punch. As long as the base lives, though, that's really all that matters. There are still 43 workers available for the Terran. Zerg making a move towards the bottom right, okay. Oh, beautiful abductions. Really nicely done. Instead, we're going onto the creep. We're going to finish the job that we started earlier. That's the hatchery going down. Can these Cyclones, though, find a way home? How many Zerglings are there? Actually, none. No Zerglings at all. uThermal taking a chance. But you know what? He's got the base mining at the 9 o'clock position. This is where that income is going to skyrocket for the Terran, and he only needs that for a couple of minutes. At this point, Trifex is long-distance mining the base in the top left, and he's long-distance mining the base at the 3 o'clock position. Not a lot of income right here for the Zerg. Okay, nice. Oh, snipe as well on at least one of those. Couple of the Cyclones just barely make it back to the high ground in time. Yeah, we're going to need some detection here. Okay, he needs to slow this down. There is a planetary. Planetary is super good, of course. Okay, yeah, getting some kills. One pesky lurker in the bottom right. Yeah, forcing a lot of those Terran units over here. He's got scant energy, but I think he's preoccupied trying to defend over here. Lurkers right now raining damage from a distance. Base over here will eventually be playing ring around the rosy with the lurker, but... Yeah, the base in the bottom right is defended, but the base over here is destroyed. What exactly are you going to do? You can't jump those lurkers. You can try, but I don't think it's a good idea. Beautiful engagement here by Trifex. Alright. Apparently at that point, uThermal called a GG. But despite the fact that this game right here is a loss, that worked out so much better than I thought it was going to be. Alrighty, game number 2. We're once again on the map inside and out, and spawning here in the top right-hand corner we have uThermal. This time around, however, his opponent is a Protoss player. We have the Grandmaster, Mr. Miyagi. I didn't think that Cyclone Widow Mine was going to be particularly great against Zerg. How in the world, though, is it going to work out well against Protoss? Because here's the thing, we see Widow Mines being played all the time, right? Especially with, like, Widow Mine drops against Protoss to try and deal some economical damage. You can use them to stop Zealot charges in the mid-game and sometimes in the late game as well. But, where's the Cyclone gonna... Like, it's nice, I guess. Especially in the early game, if the opponent decides to go for a Stargate opener, Widow Mine Cyclone would be pretty sick. It's, however, gonna be a Twilight Council. You can, of course, rush out to Cyclones, right? You can go for Cyclones pretty quickly, and that's exactly what uThermal's doing here. This is a one-base Cyclone opener, I guess, where we're floating off the barracks to do some scouting. Anyhow, that doesn't mean that his economy is delayed, but Cyclones are great in the early game. How exactly, though, is it going to work out in the mid-game? Because just basic Protoss unit compositions should do quite well. Things like Stalkers into Immortals into Colossus, right? Maybe into Disruptors. That is something we see all the time. That would be a pretty good unit composition against Cyclones, I would imagine. What about, I don't know, just things like Archon Immortal, Zealot Storm-based armies, right? Maybe not as common, but certainly something that Mr. Miyagi is comfortable playing. Anyhow, for the time being, it's gonna be Blink. If this would have been a Stargate opener, actually, I can imagine that the Cyclones could pop those units out of the sky pretty quick. But anyhow, let's see how this works out. Are we not going to try and roll up the ramp? I guess the high ground is a little bit scary. I think that's probably what the barracks is here for. Second Cyclone is out. It's going to start running across the map now, too. This is a little bit dangerous, though, because you don't actually know what the Protoss is up to at this point. So there could be a Cyclone... Or, sorry, there could be an Oracle right now flying in. And that would be a problem. I guess if you hit aggressively enough, there's a chance that that unit is going to turn around. Anyhow, at this point he sees the Stalker count. We're gonna try, I guess. Yeah, get a lock on. Good micro right there from the Protoss, though, as expected. As long as the Cyclone is on cooldown, the lock-on ability that is, it's gonna be kind of difficult to get damage in. Yeah, this is really, really good here for Protoss. I mean, battery overcharge was used, but now Blink is done. That's Cyclone number 1 going down. Cyclone number 2 is being chased down, and I've got a feeling that it also is not going to live to tell this tale. Okay, so now Protoss is in a fantastic position. uThermal is up with his back against the wall. This is usually when Protoss will go for their default attacks. And those are coming up very soon, I suppose. He's going straight into a Robo Base, so he's actually not going to go into a... He didn't go for a Proxy Gateway or, I don't know, like a War Prism or anything like that. So Mr. Miyagi is not going to be able to just continue onwards with the damage here very easily, but... He's already sniped the early game damage, and since he opened up with his standard fast expand on the low ground, and uThermal was the one delaying his natural expansion for quite a while to pump out those Cyclones, it makes the game a little bit trickier. Now, there is going to be an observer going across the map, and it's going to scout this right over here. This is not your conventional unit composition that you see at this point in the game. Scouts are going to be denied. I mean, he did obviously already see the barracks floating, so that already gives you an indicator that something is off. Because normally, believe it or not, Terrans don't really want to lose the structure that provides them Stimpec, right? And you want to make sure you get that upgrade pretty quickly. Against conventional Terran mech, Cyclones are pretty fantastic, right? Because, well, siege tanks and whatnot, not particularly mobile. This is a more mobile army, and... When microed correctly, I do feel like this is an army that can get something done against the Disruptor Stalker Ball, but... Not 100% sure how this is going to play out. There's the Drilling Claws upgrade. It's going to make the game a little bit easier. Observer gets popped as well, so Mr. Miyagi considering moving forward, but this is no longer an army that he can snipe. New barracks coming up. So you actually need a barracks to build factories. And I think he probably wants to add on factory 4 and 5. Wouldn't be surprised. Anyways, you need one here. The Terran army's moving across. Protoss is currently on the other side of the map. This is just about to get really strange. Those Cyclones are going to be pretty good if they can snipe the Disruptors. Okay, good scan. That scan is providing a lot of vision, and the damage is high enough. Good splits, as expected. Okay, now suddenly, though, this game is flipped upside down. Yeah, okay. So, Terran's going for a push on the other side of the map. Recall is utilized towards the main base of the Protoss player. Actually, no, the third base of the Protoss player. Problem is, the explosions have already taken place. So, sure, you can have those units back at home, and that's nice and all, but now the Widow Mines are already at your intersection. How are you gonna charge down that ramp? You can try. Okay. uThermal does not want to overstay his welcome. Very brave little SCV over here. Built the command center at the third base location. Widow Mines apparently are sacrificed for the greater good, but they've already achieved quite a bit. Okay. Another Widow Mine accidentally scouting the move out of the Protoss again, and apparently that's enough for Mark to now pull the trigger as well to move forward. There you go. That Nexus is going to blow up real quick. Yeah, they actually deal so much damage. Oh my god. You never really see groups of that many Cyclones going to town on a Nexus, but they actually snipe bases so quick. It's like Zerglings with adrenal glands. Anyhow, Terran... Yeah, losing their main base. This is a lot of economical damage that's being done. Protoss ran their probes towards the 3 o'clock position, so at the very least they're hidden. A couple of the units that pop out of the factories are not really achieving much, and now, okay, actually... Ooh, careful, no! Okay, Cyclones are being denied by a couple of sentries. Mr. Miyagi dropping some more of his gas to try and keep those units out, and I love this. As long as the Widow Mines are out of range, life is okay. Yeah, you can just continuously force field the ramp and prevent the units from coming in. You gotta be careful though. Yeah, you gotta make sure you reapply it, but not too fast, so you run out of energy. This is Mr. Miyagi just buying as much time as possible to continuously deal damage. Okay, they're getting tickled to death and the Widow Mines are gone. Okay, good force fielding. Very nice force fielding right here from Protoss. Not pulling the trigger on that too early. And it looks like uThermal is giving up on that attack. Oh my god, okay, the hero sentries. That is not a move I've seen since like 2012. They've added a lot of units over the last decade or so to break force fields. But at the time you couldn't. Or not very easily anyways. SCVs have come back home. Third command center morphed into an orbital command. There's 2 more orbitals in the middle of the map already, although we're gonna need a repair on the one here on the right. Yep, that is indeed gonna happen. Okay, Stalkers are gonna recall all the way back home. But now that everything is said and done, who's ahead? Mr. Miyagi has 34 workers, so he's ahead in that department. But I don't really like his economy all too much because he doesn't have any mineral lines to really work from, right? Like he's gonna reacquire a Nexus right now. But for the time being, Terran's gonna have a significantly better economy, especially because of those mules. We do actually need to repair. Hello? Oh, that's gonna be a shame if that orbital command actually burns down. Anyways, at the same time, Mr. Miyagi does have a bigger army supply. So he's got bigger army supply, bigger worker supply, and just, yeah, bigger numbers in general. But I actually think I like this unit comp here for uThermal a little bit better. Dark Shrine coming up. I quite like the idea of the Dark Shrine. I am a little bit concerned, though, for this orbital command. Hello. Okay. Now SCVs are coming in for the rescue now. Hallucinated Phoenix really wants to kill it, but it is going to stay alive. Dark Templar. Always a good option when behind the Dark Shrine. Well, he's not really behind, I suppose, but... he's not in a comfortable spot, that's for sure. Okay, so now the game should be stabilized. uThermal adding on more factories for more Cyclone production. As is the norm. There's the Invisible Men. The Grim Reaper. It's arrived. Not the Reaper, but anyways. These guys can be really annoying. Because how many scans do you really have available? At this point, he's got 2. 2 on this orbital command. That's enough to get rid of 2 of these units, assuming they decide to split up. They should really split up. Okay, he's just scouting up north to see if one of those bases is taken. Okay, he's scouting right now. Where exactly is that Cyclone ball? Okay. He wanted to go, but he's like, no. There's a chance that uThermal sees the shimmer, even without the detection. I don't think he's allowed to make a Raven, though, is he? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, he's going for an NG Bay right now, so the NG Bay will allow him to make missile turrets, which are detectors. I would have liked to see a little bit more aggression on these DTs, if I'm being honest with you, but maybe he did make the right call there. It's kind of hard to say. Third Nexus, reacquired here. Going for the upgrade as well for the Dark Templar. That gives them the blink ability as well. So this is a Protoss versus Protoss-ish type of army, right? With a lot of sentries. Kind of a small little army, though. This really does not inspire me much. Yeah, the units are looking all over the map to see if there's any hidden bases here, but there's really nothing special. It's not like uThermal has anything crazy here hidden in the corner. Now there's detection out, and it's going to be kind of difficult to get damage in. So now the Dark Templar will get spotted, I believe, and... pew, pew, pew. That was way too late. Yeah, I think it should have gone in a little bit sooner. Okay. So, this game has apparently taken a little bit of a breather. We were just base racing one another, and apparently we need a couple of minutes to recuperate our thoughts and to make sure that we once again feel comfortable. I believe that ultimately, though, The Terran army is more terrifying at this point. He's gonna try and blink to the other side, but that's not gonna happen. Nicely done. Okay, a Widow Mine and a Cyclone have been tasked with apparently keeping this base clear. At the same time, a couple units here on the right side of the map. But they also blink away back once again to safety. I'm assuming a couple units will probably also be left to guard this section of the map as well. Okay. Good luck trying to move up that ramp. That's actually a pretty nice little way of defending that. Because that's going to provide them enough detection on the low ground. Anyhow, this is when the bigger part of the Protoss army is arriving. And Mr. Miyagi is now hallucinating a Colossus. Actually not bad. It's going to give him a little bit of vision as well up that ramp. And it might just scare the Terran army a little. Yeah, he does not want to fight that. Okay. So, Protoss moving down. Terran's moving in this direction as well. And now I'm assuming we're going to see... Ooh, okay, nice detonation right there. We're going to see the Dark Templar go into town up north, but good multitasking there by uThermal. He's just thrown as many of those balls behind the force fields and through the force fields as possible. Yeah, pretty sick. Getting some good traits in right now, though, is our Protoss player. I mean, the lock-on ability does deal a lot of damage over time as well, so not to be underestimated. The Cyclones are continuously firing. It's so hard to retreat against these armies. That's really a theme that we've seen in these games so far. Like, you move out against Cyclones with a pretty fast-moving army, but it's pretty much, yeah, a one-way trip every time. That is kind of interesting. There are some units that, like, are slow, and because of that, like, for example, Brute Lords, you kind of make it a one-way trip whenever you attack with them, because the chances of them coming back home are unlikely. But usually, with most army compositions in StarCraft 2, you decide to disengage, and then you go back home and you, like, you know, make another army, and you use some of the previously kept alive units to go to town again. But against these mass Cyclone-based armies, that's not really happening. Like, the Cyclones disengage when they want to, but not the other way around. Maybe against Zerglings you could pull that off, but... we saw the same thing against Hydras and whatnot as well. It's kind of cool. Now, Mass Stalker, yeah, they should use that blink ability of theirs. So it shouldn't be that much of a problem, but a lot of the heavy hitters have certainly gotten destroyed so far. Okay, 16.5 minutes in. This game is still completely undecided. Protoss doesn't have much economy anymore. Like, he had a sick worker count some time ago, but he stopped adding on new workers a little bit ago as well. That is a little bit scary for him. Because the traits he's been making over the last few minutes have not really been particularly inspiring, and if that's the case, Terran should be able to outgrow Protoss here over the course of the next few minutes. These Widow Mines, these Widow Mines, these Widow Mines! Woo! Close. Zealots in the meantime, though, up north. Yeah, they just got sniped. 28 of them have gone down in total here so far. It's really starting to hurt now. Yeah, in a way, the Widow Mines are buying a lot of power for... or a lot of time, rather, for those Cyclones to power up and to get in this direction. Widow Mine drop. Okay, well... that worker count was already looking pretty bad. It's not getting any prettier from here. Okay. Mr. Miyagi trying to secure a base in the bottom right-hand corner. uThermal mostly just sitting back here. Little bit of shenanigans on the other side of the map, but honestly, the little bit that he's done... just for example, these Widow Mine drops, or the singular Widow Mine drop, it's done more damage than everything Mr. Miyagi has done over the last few minutes, with a whole lot more actions. Yeah, slowly building it up. No detection over here anymore, but there should be plenty of scans. No, Dark Templar pretty strong. Yeah. Okay. Here comes the Greater Protoss army, though. There's Widow Mines once again all over the map, trying to be as obnoxious as possible, but I think I'm going to keep my camera on this fight over here because this may very well be the game decider. Sure, a lot of damage is being done. A lot of workers are being killed right now, but is there enough for Protoss to just straight up just straight up go through this Terran army? Okay, Cyclones are trying to blow up as many of those disruptors as possible. Now the command center is already gone. Okay. Yeah, these Cyclones, man. The lock-on ability is actually so sick. We never really see it being used much. Like, we see it being used against, like, I don't know, an Oracle at the 4-minute mark when it flies into your base or something like that, right? We see it used from time to time, but the little missiles, they keep flying across the screen in those battles, and it's a lot of consistent damage over the course of the fight. Yeah, it's actually so sick. uThermal just got a significant supply lead because he was still dealing damage on the other side of the map as well. That's more probes going down. Still, Protoss army's looking pretty good. This is one bad Cyclone connection away from being a disaster for our Terran, but as long as uThermal keeps microing, that's what I'm talking about. As long as he keeps microing the way that he is, he should be okay. A lot of these Cyclones are also running dangerously low on HP, but the Protoss army's still looking strong. Yeah, I guess the Cyclones are just very supply heavy, right? There's a lot of supply caught up in workers too. So right now it's 82 army supply versus 59 in favor of Protoss. Ooh. Let's try to do Widow Mine drops right now on top of all of those Protoss units. A little bit ambitious. Here come the Cyclones back home, though. Okay, he decides to march through the Widow Mine field, which I don't entirely agree with. My god. So many big explosions so far in these games, though. Okay, we're doing a reverse Widow Mine, or a reverse sentry strat over here. Trying his very best to keep those units out of the opponent's main base this time around. Are there enough units here for our Protoss to break through this? Nice little bit of pickup micro here by the Dutch Terran player. Does he have enough to keep this alive? SCVs try their very best to just soak up and deal as much damage as they possibly can. Stalker goes down. And at this point, there's only one Stalker remaining in the main base of the Terran player. Widow Mines here, still available down south. Not a lot of income anymore, though, for either player here. Still a lot of workers, I suppose, for uThermal. He's got a new command center as well, but... Ooh. Ooh. Okay. He's got a lot of workers, but not a lot of minerals to mine. Okay. Mr. Miyagi. Trying his best. Ooh, beautiful Widow Mine detonation once again, getting rid of the few zealots that still remain in this game. Couple of those traitor mines also do connect, but it's time to apparently once more go to the other side of the map and hopefully deal some damage. We're now at nearly 200 workers killed in one game. My god, what an absolute bloodbath. This is so sick. It's like viewer-submitted games, but then at a very high level. Widow Mine drop, I guess, at this base over here, yeah. Oh god. Oh god, he's not doing anything. There's one hero Dark Templar here. There's literally one Dark Templar, one Zealot, and then 3 Disruptors. That's it. GG is cold. And just like that, it's uThermal who obtains the victory. And not only that, he really shows us with these games that maybe we think that strategically speaking, StarCraft 2 is finalized. But honestly, I feel like there are so many strats that are still yet to be discovered.